You are Locked On Buffaloes POSTCAST, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh boy, it is your Locked On Buffaloes postcast right here on your Locked On Buffs YouTube channel, also on the audio feed. Hope everyone is hanging in there in Buff Nation, as it didn't get any better this weekend against the University of Arizona Wildcats. The Colorado Buffaloes, once again, ladies and gentlemen, laying an egg for the – I mean, if you even want to call it that, that doesn't even seem harsh enough with how they played tonight. Just a complete no-show. I mean, this game was over from the moment it started, it felt like, as Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes fall to 3-6 on the year, 1-5 in the Big 12. As they lose tonight to the mid-Arizona Wildcats, your final score, 52-17. I mean, I see we already got a comment here. No, it's not good. The vibes are not good around the building here, folks. Hope everyone is doing well out there. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. Check me out on social media at Media by AP. Do me a favor as well. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. That way you guys never, ever miss an episode of your Locked On Buffs postcast. But this is one of those things where I don't even need to go over the game. Like, if I'm being completely honest with you, we will. That's what we do here on your Buffs postcast. But it was less about what happened in those four quarters, and it's more so about what didn't happen for Coach Prime and this Colorado Buffaloes team, as they got absolutely embarrassed once again. 52-17, your final score. Colorado did not, they were outscored. They were down 17-0 in the blink of an eye in this game. And it didn't get any better. 17 points unanswered for Arizona in the first quarter, 21 points for them in the second quarter, 14 points for them in the third quarter, and then they mercifully did not score a single point in the fourth quarter, albeit it did not matter for the Colorado Buffaloes. And a lot to get into on tonight's Locked On Buffs postcast, guys. Julian Lewis, the former 5-star number 2 high school quarterback recruit in the nation from last year, played in the second half. You saw him make an impact essentially right away with that beautiful touchdown pass, a 59-yard bomb to Omarion Miller. So you like to see that. That's probably the highlight of the day for your Colorado Buffaloes in this game. But really, outside of that, I mean, just nothing cooking for this CU team. And I think the one thing, there's a lot of inexcusable things today from Colorado. There really is. And I don't think this statistic is right. Okay, no, I was looking at the wrong bar. But the one thing that you just is completely, everything today we saw was unacceptable from the Colorado Buffaloes. But the one thing in particular that was absolutely unequivocally unacceptable from the CU Buffs team, which absolutely factored into this loss tonight and keeping the Buffs out of this game, they committed 14 penalties. 14 penalties for 110 yards. Think about that. The Colorado Buffaloes essentially gave the Arizona Wildcats a full field's length in penalties tonight. 14 penalties. I mean, good teams aren't committing 14 penalties. Teams that commit 14 penalties are lucky to get out with a win. And frankly, the Buffs are neither a good team and just not in a position to, have 14 penalties and expect to win the game. Now, to be fair, I think this game was over about 2 seconds into it. But, I mean, it was like a slow, painful bleed out to the finish line. And frankly, that's kind of where we're at with this season as a whole right now. A slow, painful bleed out to the end of this season for Coach Prime and his 3-6 Colorado Buffaloes, 1-5 in the Big 12. And I've said it time and time again on this postcast. I'm a Coach Prime guy. I'm a Coach Prime believer. But something is completely out of whack with this Colorado Buffaloes team. And it's not a question of talent. And I know you're probably saying, Aniello, how could you say it's not a question of talent when they give up 52 points? Well, we saw Omarion Miller and Draylon Miller, two guys in the offense in the wide receiver room, ball out under Shedeur Sanders. They've had some good players this year. The running back room is the best that it's been under Coach Prime. Dallin Hayden, 9 carries for 34 yards, and I didn't do much. But, it's just one of those things where you're trying to figure out what is wrong with this Buffs team. And look, I've said it before, I'll say it again. A lot of it is the quarterback. Because, you have a couple of proven commodities, as I mentioned, in Omarion Miller and Draylon Miller. Sincere Brown's had some big highlight plays this year as well. So it's not like they're just devoid of talent at the skill positions. The offensive line has been better than it has been the last couple of years as well. And I think ultimately what you're seeing play out with Coach Prime and this Colorado Buffaloes team is, well, one, you see just how important Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders were to this team. I mean, it makes you wonder if they weren't a part of this picture. Well, one, Coach Prime wouldn't be the coach in the first place, most likely. But two, it really shows you the impact that those two guys had on this program. And I understand the turnover has been crazy, year after year after year with this Colorado team. But you're also seeing that this portal method is just not working out the way that I think Coach Prime and everybody thought it might. Because when you go out and you get a bunch of misfits, and I don't mean that in like a bad way necessarily. Like let's take Jaheim Otis, for example, just because he's the first one that comes to mind. A guy that was, committed playing, on the Alabama roster at one point, and that's not working out. Like, why is he not Alabama? Right? I'm not just trying to pick on him, right? But like, point being, there is a lack of continuity on this team. And maybe misfits is a little bit of a strong term, but it's like, it's like you're trying to put this puzzle together with the wrong pieces to a certain extent. And you guys probably know as well as I do when it comes to football, and frankly, all sports, but football, I think most importantly, probably alongside basketball, like continuity can be the difference in success or failure. And you're seeing a team right now that really isn't playing like a team, that's playing a lot like individuals. And that's starting with the quarterback, the offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur. The defense is an absolute mess. The linebacking room is abysmal right now, folks. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But most importantly, this comes back on Coach Prime. And Coach Prime is a guy that is never afraid to, stare in the face of adversity. I still, it's hard to believe. Like, this year's cooked. Let's get that out of the way. This year is absolutely cooked. But, maybe Coach Prime takes a long look in the mirror, assuming he comes back next year, which I do think he will, and tries to retool this team. But, this season has been an absolute failure. They're not going to make a bowl game, folks. They're not going to make a bowl game after winning 8 games last year. And you could make the argument that it's not a question of talent, at least in my opinion, with this Colorado team. The defense is, like I said, is just an absolute mess. The quarterback situation has been a mess from the jump. And what a far cry it is sitting here on November the 1st with the Buffs losing 52-17 to Arizona. That opening night game against Georgia Tech literally feels like a lifetime ago. And CU lost that game 27-20 and was in that game till the very end. And it has just been a downward spiral ever since then for CU. Okay, you beat Delaware 31-7, right? You beat Wyoming 37-20. Whippy. Good win, upset win against Iowa State 24-17. So you're kind of seeing, what this CU team could be. But everything else besides that has been a complete and utter disaster. Losing to Georgia Tech, blown out against Houston, losing a close game to BYU, blown out against TCU, embarrassed against Utah. And then again, off the heels of the most embarrassing loss for the Colorado Buffaloes in a long, long time. How do they respond? They give up 53 points against Utah, and Utah can boat race some teams. They're a solid program. Okay, opportunity to come back home against Arizona, who's a mid-team in the Big 12. And what does Arizona do? They stomp on their throats. 52-17. They've given up over 100 points in their last 2 games. It is unbelievable. It is so hard to watch. And thank God there was a World Series Game 7 on tonight that I could use to distract myself from the football vomit that we saw take place on the football field today. Oh, my gosh. I mean, and we'll hit a break after this real quick. Go ahead and, yeah, here's a comment. It was over after the 3rd play. It certainly felt that way, and it was. Do me a favor, drop some comments. Let me know how you're feeling out there, Buff Nation. As I always like to say, this is a opportunity for you to vent or celebrate tonight. It's a vent session. Let's keep it, PG-13. Let's keep the cuss words out of it and be respectful of everyone in the chat. But if you want to get some stuff off your chest, if you have some takes, let me know. Drop those in the comment section. But I'll say this right before we go to break. I don't think I've ever seen a team like Colorado respond worse from a bye. I mean, let's just take a step back here. 24-17, you upset Iowa State, who was the 22nd ranked team in the nation at that point. And it hadn't been a good season or a great season up until that point either. So you beat them. You're going into the bye. You're like, okay, we got some momentum. We're feeling good. And I've never seen a team come out as sorry as the Colorado Buffaloes have come out in their previous 2 games after the bye. Again, an upset win against a ranked opponent, and you follow up the bye week after that win with a 53-7 loss and a 52-17 loss. Oh, my goodness. It is just foul. All right, let's hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue on the conversation. Thoughts on Deion Sanders' post-game comments, as well as some big picture notes on the quarterback room and some other things that I've heard between the lines as well. All that more when we come back right here on your Locked On Buffs POSTCAST. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys, real quick, let me tell you about the fine folks over at DoorDash, because it's the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. You can do that as well when you continue to use those DoorDash Streaks, guys. And not really an MVP today. How about the MVP of the game was the entire Arizona offense? How about that? A lot to like from Arizona if you're an Arizona fan, not a lot to like if you're a fan of the Colorado Buffaloes, guys. And again, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday on your order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms, they do apply. The promo period runs through the 18th of this month. Let me also tell you about our friends over at SupplyHouse, because when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 businesses, or over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brand in the business. That's our friends over at SupplyHouse. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered, guys. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where your details matter. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping, and dedicated support make the whole process a lot smoother as well. Join the free Trademaster program today and score various perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Be sure to check out our friends over at SupplyHouse and let them know that Locked On Buffs sent you. All right. Oh, we got my guy KB in the chat. Hope you're doing well, brother. Happy that one's over. Like I said, I know you're, you got some California roots. If you're a Dodger fan, congratulations. Pains me to say that. If there's any Dodger fans in the chat, congratulations. Oh my gosh, what a lousy. I shouldn't say lousy. The game was incredible. Game 7 in the World Series, but the Dodgers, man, I can't stand the Dodgers myself. But KB, what's up? Iowa State lost at home. Perhaps not such a great win after all. So we got a comment there as well. 100%. This has just been like, I don't even care about the Iowa State game at this point. Like, this is all about looking in the mirror and figuring out what's wrong. And Coach Prime essentially said as much in his post-game press conference. Normally it's, usually coach and a player or two. Today, coach, I believe even before he was asked the question, said, I'm the only one talking. No other representatives from the team. And frankly, I think that's okay, because Coach Prime put all the blame, not just for this game, but it sounded like the whole season, on himself. And, there was a good question asked about what do you say to recruits and parents of recruits that are watching this game? And he said something along the lines of, if they're watching this and they want to be difference makers and dogs and all that kind of stuff, they'll still want to come here. And I mean, okay, like, sure. But like, put yourself in Jordan Seaton's shoes right now. And I understand it. Jordan, I don't want to speak for Jordan at all, but like, would it surprise anybody if Jordan Seaton hits the portal this offseason? Paid his dues at CU, believed in Coach Prime for 2 years. But this is a guy in Jordan Seaton that I think is a first-round talent, could potentially be the first offensive lineman off the board when it's his time to be drafted. Like, if you're Jordan Seaton, or, and you come to the offseason, are you sitting back and saying, yeah, let's run it back? Or are you saying, let me go play in the SEC, solidify my draft stock, and, on to the next chapter? You just naturally, like, human emotion, right? Like, you got to think that it's going through some of these guys' minds. And Coach Prime said, he doesn't believe that this team is quit. He says he knows quitters when he sees them. Take that as you may. But the reality of the situation, and again, I'm a Coach Prime guy. I am. I want to see Coach Prime succeed. I want to see Coach Prime thrive at Colorado. I think he still could. Just not with this current iteration of the team. But it's just brutal. It's just brutal. I mean, there's really no other way to put it, man. I mean, Robert Livingston's defense has given up over 100 points in 2 games. Not 100 points on the season. 100 points in 2 games. 53 to Utah, 52 to Arizona. Pat Shurmur's offense has put up, less than 30 points in the last 2 games. 17 tonight, 7 last week. They got to address this somehow. And I don't think anything's changing the rest of the way. There's 3 games left at West Virginia, home against Arizona State, at Kansas State. That's where we're at. Does anyone feel good about Colorado winning any of those 3 games? I know for a long time it seemed like West Virginia was the hot commodity, but I'm not so sure that's the case. They're both 3-6. They beat Houston today, did West Virginia, a team that gave Colorado fits. They beat them 45-35. So, real quick on the quarterback situation, Coach Prime did not really say anything about the redshirt dynamic involving Julian Lewis. I mean, you had to go with the quarterback swap. Ryan Staub got in the game, I think, turned it over on his first pass attempt, or, pretty close to his first pass attempt, if memory serves me correct. I've already kind of tried to, bleach this out of my mind, this game. I think if they want to manage the redshirt year, then, you figure out a way to play Juju in another game, and then you don't see him the rest of the way. There's 3 games left, right? But in hindsight, it makes that Delaware appearance so much more strange, because, you burnt a Juju Lewis game in a potential redshirt year, and you won that game 31-7. You didn't need Juju Lewis in that game. And I understand that Kaden Salter wasn't playing well. Hasn't played well really all year. I almost think you got to go with Ryan Staub over Kaden Salter at this point, man. I mean, Kaden Salter looks like a guy that got his bag and is just happy to be here. For real. And I hate to put it all on the quarterback, but it's just such an important position in football. And again, with the skill position players that CU has, it shouldn't be this bad. It could be bad. Shouldn't be this bad. So, what else? I think we hit on it all. Again, this is more just, I think, a telling big picture game for Colorado. To get blown out against Utah 53-7 and respond, or the lack there is of a response tonight, lack thereof, it's a problem. UCF, CU, and West Virginia all have 1 win in conference play. The only team that is worse than them is Oklahoma State, who's 0-6 in conference and 1-8 on the year. All right, Buff Nation, take a deep breath, get some rest, flush this thing down the toilet. 3 more games to go. We'll see if right now the Buffs are playing for pride. They got to win 3 games in a row to get to a bowl game. I don't think that's happening personally. But for me, at this point in the next game, it's let's see them play like a team. Let's see what pride is left in that locker room on that field. Real quick, let's address this. Time to send Prime walking out of Boulder with a Louis bag and his $34 million buyout. I don't have any sources necessarily on this. I've heard some murmurs and speculation. I don't think there's any way CU's going with that buyout. No way. One, I don't think CU can afford it. And the crazy part is I'm pretty sure they're still printing money hand over fist with Deion despite the result that we've seen this season. Now, we'll see if that's the case entering next season. But, they announced it tonight, 48,000 or whatever it is at Folsom Field. Now, there was about 10 people in the building for the second half. But, guys, Coach Prime isn't going anywhere unless it's a medical thing. That's kind of where I'm at on that front as well. I don't think, I've said that before. I don't think CU would ever fire Coach Prime. I shouldn't say wouldn't ever, but I don't think they're firing him even after a season like this. I'll put it that way. So, we'll see. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. I'm going to enjoy the last few minutes of my Saturday night and get ready for Sunday morning football. Broncos tomorrow against the Texans should be a good one. All right, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, do us a favor, do Kevin a favor as well on your way out the door, folks. Ugly loss tonight for CU. Will it get better? We'll find out. Have a good night, folks.